from Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Jim Morris, Johnny. You working on a case?
Founded Kentucky, yes, but not insurance.
Good. Will you go out to the West Coast for us?
Maybe. What is it? Murder, marine theft, arson, or something new?
It's nothing yet. Our manager in Los Angeles phoned this morning. A woman out there wants to buy a $200,000 policy on her life.
Well?
Oh, it's not that we don't want the business, but the sales agent doesn't want to take the responsibility of a deal that size. He thinks she's holding something back. We've decided to investigate.
How old is she?
I don't know. Why?
Oh, I thought I'd ask. There's one kind of woman to investigate, you know, and then there's another. When do you want me to leave?
Edmund O'Brien, in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Great Eastern Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Nora Falkner matter. Expense account item 1, $220 airfare and incidentals between Hartford and the Great East Building, Miracle Mile, Wilshire Boulevard, Los Angeles. The only apparent miracle was the fact that pedestrians crossed Wilshire constantly without getting killed.
Mr. Snyder, we'll see you now, Mr. Dollar.
Thanks.
Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Dollar.
That's all right.
Let's see. Nora Tracy Falkner. Here you are.
Thanks. 200,000 to go to her husband. How'd it start, Mr. Snyder?
She phoned one of our salesmen, a fellow by the name of Melton. He went out to her house. The address is there. And she told him what she wanted. He says he was counting his commission at first, but after he filled out the application, he began to wonder.
About what?
Her. She told him she planned on paying 6 months' premiums and wanted to know how soon the policy would be in effect. Acted unnatural, as he put it. I think we ought to find out about her.
I don't like this kind of thing. It's a blind search. I don't even know what I'm looking for. But I'll start on it in the morning, and I'll let you know how I come out. Expense account item 2, $3 cab fare. The usual way to start an investigation of this type is with the subject's neighbors. From the male faction, I learned that Nora Falkner was beautiful and obviously above reproach. The female faction reversed that decision and reported that she lived with her husband and his mother, but hadn't been seen for the past few days. Realizing that mothers-in-law are fair sources of information, I put her next on my list. Mrs. Falkner, the elder, sported short, iron gray hair, and her face told the story of an endless battle to hang on to youth.
Come into the drawing room, Mr. Dollar. I think we can be comfortable there.
Thank you.
I'll close the doors. You could see by the way that maid was eyeing you that she's an incurable pariah.
I didn't notice.
She's impossible. Well, what did you find out? Who is she seeing in Las Vegas?
I beg your pardon?
Nora, what did you learn? I'm her mother-in-law.
Oh, yes, I know that, but maybe you have me confused with someone else.
You want the detective? The maid announced you as an investigator.
I'm an insurance investigator, Mrs. Falkner.
Well, then, you're not from that agency. Oh, well, this is embarrassing, to say the least. I hope you won't mention it to anyone.
Well, it's none of my business.
It's really nothing. It's a little game I play with Nora. Then I tease her about her little trips. Please sit down, Mr.
Dollar.
Of course. I feel so foolish, but my daughter-in-law was mentioned when you came in, wasn't she?
Yes, I did want to talk to you about her. To be quite honest, the company that hired me is a little uneasy about that $200,000 life insurance policy she applied for.
Nora applied?
Yes. You didn't know about it?
No, I didn't. Of course, she never tells me anything. Well, why would she do a thing like that? She's a clever woman. There must be a reason. Who's the beneficiary, Mr. Dollar?
Your son, Andrew.
I see. Then I would say it's one of her unexplainable maneuvers. An attempt to regain Andrew's trust and affection.
That's an odd thing